This whole series has been about one big main idea. The SAT is a logic test, not a knowledge test. That includes even the reading section. The test will take a very simple problem, dress it up in advanced looking clothing, not because the student needs advanced skills to solve it, but because the test wants to see if a student will panic, overcomplicate the problem mentally, and then lose points. I'm Daisy Luce. I help people build flexible, profitable online tutoring businesses by specializing in high demand niches like me. And SAT tutoring is one of the best ones out there. So let me show you a few of the reading problems today to show you what I mean. Let's get into it. So this first problem, it's this problem about student notes. There's always a note at the top that it says a student has taken the following notes. The first thing you need to know if you're approaching this problem from a logical sense is do not read the notes. All right, what's even happening? That's already weird. If you were typically on a reading test that's trying to test your reading comprehension abilities, you absolutely would be told to not even start answering questions until you have fully read the passage. That's how most reading tests for reading comprehension are built. This is not about reading comprehension per se. This is how they're turning it kind of into a logic ability. So the very first thing is not to burn your time by reading all those notes at the top. Instead, go right here, the very first sentence. A student wants to explain an advantage of the new platinum catalyst developed by this guy and his colleagues. Do not get hung up on people's names or any proper nouns and try to sit there pronouncing them. Just fly through it. I always teach my students to do that. But here's the bottom line. We are supposed to find an answer that has something to do with an advantage of the platinum catalyst. Do I know what a platinum catalyst is? No. Do I have any idea what they're talking about? Absolutely not. But I know how to tell when something is an advantage compared to a disadvantage or just nonsensical. So let's just go through and see if we can't pare down our choices. We might even get it all the way down to the final. We'll see. Number one, researcher Tang and his colleagues created a platinum catalyst that combines platinum. All right, that's just a fact so far. A rare and expensive metal with this. All right, there's no advantage in there that I'm seeing. Maybe it's further explained up here as to why that's an advantage, but that's not what we were supposed to do. We weren't supposed to allude to an advantage. We were supposed to explain an advantage. And right there, that's not doing it. Like other platinum catalysts, the new platinum catalyst requires a particular amount of the metal to be effective. Again, that's just a fact, not an advantage. Platinum is a rare and expensive metal. These are not good things. That is used as a catalyst for chemical reactions. However, okay, are they about to say some great advantage? Platinum catalysts typically require a large amount of platinum. Well, that's bad. If they're rare and expensive, it's not a good thing. They need a lot of it. All right, well, then we already know D is going to have to be the answer. But just to confirm, while still highly effective, the new platinum catalyst requires far less of the rare and expensive metal than okay, we got it. That's the advantage. That's why that's good. What if I had only been able to narrow it down to two good options? Well, then, yes, of course, if you need to go back and read the notes at that point to further discover what they're talking about, do it. But what I want to show you is how a lot of these problems can be approached logically. Let's go take a look at another one. Grammar. Grammar, hands down, is a huge logic section. A lot of times you can look at the answers and decode what type of question this is, or even figure out what the correct answer is with a good amount of certainty before you even read the passage. So on grammar problems, which these are, when it talks about conventions of standard English, that's a grammar question. I tell students, look at the answers first. And by looking at the answers, I notice something. I see a period and I see a semicolon with no change in the word choicing. Those are the same thing. That does the same thing. There is a separate situation for another time a semicolon can be used. I'm not going to go into here in depth, but for the most part, typically a period and a semicolon do the same job. So I'm thinking it couldn't be either one of those then. Probably going to have to throw them both out. The next thing I noticed that I really coach my students up on is the SAT loves these ing opener dependent clauses that they like to attach at the beginning of a sentence or at the end. When they attach it to the beginning, many times they're trying to test your knowledge of dangling modifiers. When they attach it at the end, they want a comma right there, comma if it's at the beginning as well, but they want a comma right there. So my students are well prepped that if they see an ing verb, it many times is coming right off a comma. So we're already leaning towards C before I've even read the passage. Now, obviously, I still have to read it to confirm that what I was thinking actually applies, but you can see in this situation, yes, it absolutely does. I'll go ahead and read it. Archaeologists have estimated that the pre-Columbian Native American city of this, located across the Mississippi River from modern-day St. Louis, Missouri, had as many as 20,000 inhabitants in the year 1150 CE, making it one of the largest cities in North America at the time. That was a complete thought to that point. They could have stopped, but they just did comma, and they added on a little ing side note. So that was correct. Good. Okay, one more. And this one cracks me up because you got to see the question, the lead-in question. If there was any doubt, if they're trying to make a logic test, even in the reading section, I mean, come on. Which choice most logically completes the text? Of course, they're going to love that kind of problem because that's exactly what they want you to figure out, not reading comprehension, logic skills. So as we read through this, I'm just going to make a couple of notes as I go through it. Like I'm going to skip big words as you've already seen me do in the other passages. I'm going to pause if I have some kind of understanding that something I know, a fact I know that relates to the passage that I can connect with. That's always very helpful. And then I'm going to try to fill in the blank with the student I was tutoring before we read the multiple choice to fully make sure, did we understand where they were headed with this? Do we have an idea of what we think they might be trying to put into that blank spot? Okay, here we go. In our 2021 article, Throwaway History, throwing away, towards oh, give me a break. No way, no way. Scholar Ann Garner discusses John Johnson, a devoted collector of items intended to be discarded. There's that ing right off a comma, just a side note, including bus tickets and campaign pamphlets. Johnson recognized that scholarly institutions considered his expansive collection of, there's that word again, but now they're probably going to lead in so I understand what it means. I don't know that I know how to pronounce it. I don't know, ephemera, but I would never get stuck on that when I'm reading anyway. I would just make it up however I want to, or shorten it, or even just call it E or something. Considered his expansive collection of ephemera to be worthless. Indeed, it wasn't until 1968, after Johnson's death, that Oxford University's library acquired the collection. ing opener. I'm getting sidetracked, but do you see how many ing dependent clauses are connected to these? I'm telling you, they love this stuff. Okay, and I paused there too because I just wanted to tap into something students would recognize and understand. There's a TV show or there's clips on social media of hoarders. I think the show's even called that, hoarders, where you're collecting a lot of what other people would consider junk. And this is definitely what's coming to mind here. He was a devoted collector of items intended to be discarded, so of trash, including things like bus tickets, campaign pamphlets. But I would discuss with the student for a minute, what else do you think he's collecting that's usually trash? Like, bottle tops, cardboard boxes, uh, receipts. Who knows? It could be the most random things. But by tapping into that show or something that they relate to, that's definitely going to make this passage have more meaning and a better understanding. Okay, back to the passage. I needed to make sure I caught this. Johnson recognized that scholarly institutions considered his expansive collection worthless. Indeed, it wasn't until 1968, after Johnson's death, that Oxford University's library acquired the collection. Pause. I'd ask my students, if he just said institutions thought it was worthless, why are they acquiring the collection? There's something we're missing here, and I bet it has to do with the logical part that completes the text. Having grasped the item's potential value of historians and other researchers, hence the example of Johnson serves to blank. So it seemed like most of the time they think it's trash, but then for whatever reason, this institution thought his collection might be worthwhile to keep at the library slash like museum. Is there an answer down here that has to do with that? You can pause the video, read through all of them, but D, illustrate both the relatively low scholarly regard in which E was once held and the later recognition of E's possible utility. And so that is the juxtaposition that we're looking at there from one viewpoint to the other, and the other three answers did not fill that in. But I just wanted to point out, even reading is built to be like a logic test. And so those tips can really help tap into what the problem is trying to get at and help students approach the problem in a logical sense, avoid things that are trying to trip them up, like the really long words, things like that. Very different than typical reading passages on standardized tests. Not to mention that every question gets a new reading passage altogether. So it's just one and done every single time there. It keeps the passages very short, which many students and tutors really love. I have to say, I do enjoy the shorter passage for each of the questions. So as a tutor, part of your job is teaching students not to overthink. You're teaching them to notice when the test is baiting them. You're teaching them to trust the simple path, a test-taking skill. And again, as already mentioned, this doesn't just apply to math, but also to reading, as we just saw, being able to look behind the density of a passage and beyond unnecessary information to find the key concepts you need to answer the question. Any student can learn it, and any tutor can learn how to tutor the SAT too. This has been the thread through the whole series. SAT is not about proving how much you know. It's about reading what the question is actually asking and choosing the fastest, reliable path and thinking outside the box. All right, that's it for this week. Next week, I'll go back to math to wrap everything up here. We'll look at some super hard, high-level problems, at least what looks super hard. Can you hear that? There's a fire truck outside. Okay, I gotta go find out why, I guess. But you already know what I've been telling you. These problems are not actually hard. So until then, happy tutoring, friends.